Fëanor was born in the years of the trees as the eldest son of Finwë and the only child of Finwë and Miriel. He was the greatest of the Noldor and leader in their rebellion and the maker of the Silmarils. Fëanor was the mightiest in skill of word and of hand, more learned from his brothers, his spirit burned as a flame. His name was Finwë, which he would later give to his fifth son, Fin the Crafty, who would inherit Fëanor's skill of hand most closely compared to the other sons of Fëanor. His mother, Miriel, would become consumed in spirit and body and grow weary from bearing him and yearn for the release from the labor of living. He would wed Nirdanel, daughter of Matan, a great smith. She would be firm of will just like him, but more patient in desiring to understand minds rather than to master them. They would have 7 sons. Meanwhile, his father would wed again, this time to eldest, which Fëanor did not like. Fëanor didn't like her, nor did he like his half-brothers Fingolfin and Finarfin. He lived apart from them, exploring the land of Aman, or busying himself with the knowledge and the crafts in which he delighted. In those unhappy things which later come to pass, and in which Fëanor was the leader, many saw the effect of this breach within the house of Finwë, judging that if Finwë had endured this loss and been content with the fathering of his mighty son, the courses of Fëanor would have been otherwise, and great evil might have been prevented, for the sorrow and the strife in the house of Finwë is graven in the memory of the Noldoran elves. But the children of Indus were great and glorious, and their children also, and if they had not lived, the history of the Eldar would have been diminished. Fëanor would be one of the craftsmen of the Noldor. There, Melkor would complete the term of his bondage of dwelling in the duress of Mandos alone. He would be granted pardon by Manwë and would have a brief moment of good. However, this deed was short-lived and feigned, as Melkor would hate the Eldar in his heart. Now in his heart, Melkor most hated the Eldar, both because they were fair and joyful and because in them he saw the reason for the rising of the Valar and his own downfall. He would later declare that Fëanor learned art from him in secret, though that was a lie, and Fëanor would hate Melkor the most. He would first name him Morgoth, black foe of the world, and take no counsel from him. Fëanor would start a long and secret project, the Silmarils. He pondered how the light of the trees, the glory of the blessed realm, might be preserved imperishable. Then he began a long and secret labor, and he summoned all his lore and his power and his subtle skill, and at the end of all he made the Silmarils. There were 3 great jewels indeed. Those jewels would be strong enough that nothing, not even violence, could mar or break it within the kingdom of Arda. Yet that crystal was to the Silmarils, but is as the body to the children of Iluvatar, the house of its inner fire, that is within it, and yet in all parts of it, and is its life. And the inner fire of the Silmarils Fëanor made of the blended light of the trees of Valinor, which lives in them yet, though the trees have long withered and shine no more. Those jewels would be so great that all who dwelt in Aman would be filled with wonder and delight, as Varda hallowed them and Mandos foretold that the fates of Arda would lay locked within them. Fëanor would become quickly attached to them, showing a greedy love for the Silmarils. Melkor would lust for them, seeking to destroy Fëanor and end the friendship of the Valar and the Eldar. The Valar would be aware that the peace of Valinor was poisoned. He would also set new lies on Fëanor, saying that Fingolfin and his sons were planning on usurping the leadership of Finwë and Fëanor's earlier line. He would continue with his lies and evil whisperings, and Fëanor would now begin to openly to speak words of rebellion against the Valar, crying aloud that he would depart from Valinor back to the world without, and would deliver the Noldor from thraldom if they would follow him. Fëanor would initially reject Melkor at first, but would later be influenced by him, speaking openly against the Valar. This would cause great unrest in Tirion, as Finwë would summon all his lords to council. Fëanor would believe Melkor's lie that his half-brother Fingolfin would seize the Silmarils for himself, as Melkor lusted for the Silmarils. While he would be initially influenced by Melkor's free will, Melkor would see how much Fëanor loved the Silmarils he made to trick him against his half-brother. Did Fëanor do anything wrong then? It seems that it's a mix of Fëanor and Melkor, who did many things wrong. Fingolfin would stand before him, and by then, Fëanor was fully armed and would threaten his half-brother. "So it is, even as I guessed," he said. My half-brother would be before me with my father, in this as in all other matters." Then turning upon Fingolfin, he drew his sword, crying, "Get thee gone, and take thy due place." The Valar would send Tulkas to imprison him, as Fëanor spoke openly against him earlier. They brought the Eldar to their land freely, though they were angered and dismayed at Fëanor's deeds. He would stand before Mandos in the Ring of Doom, and Mandos would confirm the ban unless someone releases him. Then Fingolfin said, "I will release my brother." But Fëanor spoke no word in answer, standing silent before the Valar. After the escape of Melkor from Valinor, he would publicly forgive Fëanor. There would be a great concourse about the Ring of Doom, as Yavanna would speak before the Valar, blaming Fëanor for the decay of the Light of the Two Trees. Fëanor would curse Melkor in front of Manwë, calling him Morgoth, as well as the summons of Manwë before running from the Ring of Doom, as his father would be more dear to him than the light of Valinor or even the Silmarils. Many grieved for his anguish, as the Valar didn't fully understand yet what had befallen, though they knew the Silmarils had passed away, and the doom of the Noldor drew near. Melkor would reveal the Silmarils closed in the crystal casket remaining in his power. Fëanor would suddenly reappear later, rebelling against the Valar with his wrath and hate given most to Morgoth. "Why, O people of the Noldor," he cried, "why should we longer serve the jealous Valar who cannot keep us nor even their own realm secure from their enemy? And though he be now their foe, are not they and he of one kin? Here once was light, that the Valar begrudged to Middle-earth, but now dark levels all." He would urge the Noldor to follow him into the lands of the east, and swear a terrible oath along with his 7 sons. They swore an oath which none shall break, and none should take, by the name even of Iluvatar, calling the everlasting dark upon them if they kept it not, vowing to pursue with vengeance and hatred to the ends of the world, Vala, demon, elf, or man as yet unborn, or any creature, great or small, good or evil, that time should bring forth unto the end of days, whoso should hold or take or keep a Silmaril from their possession. Thus, he would hate both the Valar and Melkor, or claim to do so. However, his hatred of the Valar was based on Melkor's lie, and his hatred of Melkor was him lying himself, both of which were about the Silmarils. He didn't like the Valar because he was led to believe that the Valar would ask him to give up the Silmarils and that they couldn't keep them safe from Melkor. He didn't like Melkor because he lusted for them and took them seeking to destroy Fëanor who made them. The Noldor would escape after the kinslaying by the forces of Fëanor. While it seems Fëanor had been swayed by Morgoth much earlier during his initial hatred, it becomes more clear now that he was following Morgoth in leading the Noldor. Now Fëanor led the Noldor northward because his first purpose was to follow Morgoth. Moreover, Tuna beneath Tunickudil was set nigh to the girdles of Arda, and there the great sea was immeasurably wide, whereas ever northward the sundering seas grew narrower, as the wasteland of Ahriman and the coasts of Middle-earth drew together. But as the mind of Fëanor cooled and took counsel, he perceived overlaid that all these great companies would never overcome the long leagues to the north, nor cross the seas to the last, save with the aid of ships. Yet it would need long time and toil to build so great a fleet, even were there any among the Noldor skilled in that craft. Fëanor sat in dark thought until his host was assembled. As he was going to leave Valinor, he knew that he required ships in Middle-earth which the Noldor didn't have. He would go to the Haven of the Swans after being told the truth about the crafts, such as the trees from the Valar, that their crafts were to them just like the Silmarils to Fëanor. Meanwhile, the Teleri would be overcome and a good number of mariners were wickedly slain. The Noldor would escape after the kinslaying by the forces of Fëanor. The ones who still tried to reach Middle-earth would be cursed by Mandos. Fëanor halted after the Noldor reached the north of Arda, and they would begin to suffer anguish. Fëanor and his sons would come first of the exiles of Middle-earth. He went up the long firth of Drungus and passed into the great land of Hithlin while the host of Morgoth came through the mountains of shadow. The Noldor were victorious, as the light of Aman weren't dimmed in their eyes yet. The orcs fled before them, and they would hunt over the mountains of shadow into Ardgillan where the armies of Morgoth came to their aid. His son, Celegorm, would waylay them, and the battle would last for 10 days. He would draw far ahead of his host while the servants of Morgoth turned to bay and the Balrogs would aid them. Fëanor would be surrounded with few friends as he continued fighting, wrapped in a fire with many wounds. He was smitten by Gothmog, lord of Balrogs, and perished. His sons would raise him up as he bade them halt, while initially denying it, knowing that his time would come. Fëanor bade them halt, for his wounds were mortal, and he knew that his hour was come. And looking out from the slopes of arid Wethrin, with his last sight he beheld far off the peaks of Thangorodrim, mightiest of the towers of Middle-earth, and knew with the foreknowledge of death that no power of the Noldor would ever overthrow them, but he cursed the name of Morgoth thrice, and laid it upon his sons to hold their oath, and to avenge their father. Then he died, but yet neither burial nor tomb, for so fiery was his spirit that as it sped his body fell to ash, and was borne away like smoke. And his likeness never again appeared in Arda, neither has his spirit left the halls of Mandos. Thus ended the mightiest of the Noldor, of whose deeds came both their greatest renown and their most grievous woe.